Okay, for this video I'm going to go over just basically starting our first project. And so far, just to catch you up as an absolute novice, complete beginner, the first thing that I have on my screen is just Visual Studio Code. Now, Visual Studio Code is actually a free, what's called an IDE, which is, actually I don't even know what ID stands for anymore. It stands for Integrated Development Environment. I knew that. But basically, that's what we're going to be using for our coding. I particularly like Visual Studio myself, but you need to pay for that, and Visual Studio Code is free. So we are going into this with a zero investment because it doesn't really cost anything to code. So once you've downloaded your version of Visual Studio Code, it's going to open up just like this, and this is the start. Just so we can get a little bit more knowledge on other important systems that we're going to need, the next one that we're going to worry about is GitHub. Now, GitHub is actually going to help us host a lot of our code. That way we can share our code, and then we would also be able to collaborate with others. It's very useful, especially when you get into actual enterprises and things of that nature, because you'll be able to see a history of code and be able to deploy it in the right particular ways. Many organizations use it. So you can start a free account. You just sign up and go ahead and create an account. I particularly already have an account, so I'm just going to sign in. But basically, this is your GitHub page. As you can see, I don't have a lot here. The first thing I'm going to do, though, is I'm going to create a repository, which is going to house all of my code. And I'm just going to call it Learn Vue NodeJS. And the description is going to be, we are learning how to create single page applications using VueJS with a NodeJS backend. And we're going to make that public, and we'll just initialize. That doesn't really matter, but why not? And we will create. Okay. Yeah, we're ready to publish. We've not done anything yet. No, we're going to dismiss that. So here's basically our entire repository. Here's all of our code. We have one file that was created for us. It's just a README. And you can edit and tell about your program, what it is and what it does. This will also be displayed as the main page here. So what's cool about Git is that you can actually see the code, and you'll be able to download the code, run the code in anywhere you want to. People can also branch off of it and use your code for something else to build onto it if they'd like to. There's just a lot of really cool things that you can do. And when you get into enterprises, you're going to want to use this kind of what's the word for it? It's basically version software. So it's tracking all of your versions of your code and all of the different code changes that happen. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to use this green button over here. It says clone or download. So basically, you can use a git command to be able to download the code on your computer so you can alter it. So we're going to there's two choices here. You can download a zip folder, or you can open in the desktop. Or you can even just copy the URL right here. I'm going to go ahead and hit open desktop. And then it'll take you right to this page if you don't have this installed, which is GitHub Desktop. So GitHub for Windows or Mac, you're actually going to have GitHub installed to be able to interact with it. I thought I had it, which I do, so I don't necessarily need that. Let's see, let's go back here. Oh no, Let's go back to GitHub. Back to GitHub. So, oops, that was wrong one. So the learn view Node.js, we can't just open in the desktop here. So we are going to copy the web address. We'll copy that. So then we will go over to our Visual Studio Code, and what we're going to want to do here is we are going to want to create a workspace. Or maybe we don't want to do that. Let's see, open folder, no. No. Let's just update that. Maybe there was something going on there. Honestly, forget how to do this. Clone repo. There it is. Thank you. Good thing I updated. So this button should be there. If it's not, we'll have to find a different way to do that. Usually you'll go over here in the extensions list and then just type in Git, and you should see all kinds of information on here for Git. There's really a lot of these, and I honestly don't know what they all do, so I wouldn't mess with those. So we're just going to use the button. So here you would paste your repository URL, and that is the URL that's right here. Copy. And welcome to web development, ladies and gentlemen. This is the part where nothing ever works the same, and you really have to use critical thinking on how to move forward in anything. So this video is completely obsolete after I've already made it, because this button probably won't be there, or God only knows. So you really got to understand what's going on so that you can kind of know what you're looking for and know what to Google, so that you can figure out, you know, how to overcome some of these barriers and obstacles. So now that we've pasted that, I'm just going to hit enter. Now it's going to ask me where I want to save it. I'm just going to put it in my documents, and I'll make a new folder here. We'll call it web dev, and we will put the repository there. Okay, so in the lower right hand corner here, you can't see because of my face is in the way here. Let me see if I can move that. So basically it says down here, would you like to open the cloned repository? And yes, we would, because that's the whole purpose of cloning it, so we could see it. So now, put this back over here. And basically, it's opened all the files right here on the left-hand side in the Explorer here. And the only file we had was that README, which is the same README that is over here in our GitHub website. So from here, we can basically add any files or add any kind of code and stuff right here. So now, since we are starting a VueJS project, we are also starting a NodeJS project, I should say. So Node.js, what you're going to want to do is go ahead and do a Google search for Node.js and go to their official nodejs.org website, and you're going to want to download the latest version of this. I'm pretty sure I already have it installed, but I'm just going to go ahead and install it again. Oh, what do you mean? For crying out loud. Okay, so we're on 12.13 and we're on 12.16 now. So why not install the newest version, right? Educational anyway. Okay. All right, and you just follow through this. Next, 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 next. Install. Sorry, that was a UAC prompt. So we're just letting this run. In the meantime, we can look up VueJS CLI. So the CLI stands for Command Line Interface, and basically what that is they've got a lot of tools that automate a lot of the creation of projects and making sure your project is going to be good for different screen sizes and devices and all of these things. So you can make your, in different browsers, because what happens is there's a lot of new ways to code that don't necessarily work well with, say, Internet Explorer or other things like that. So Vue CLI is going to basically use a bundler, and it's going to use what's called Webpack, and it's going to use all these different tools for us that we can just set up at the beginning and then not have to worry about anymore. And then it's going to compile all of our code into a way that's going to be used in many different devices without us having to do it all by ourselves. So that's why I really like Vue, the CLI specifically. Vue is just basically a JavaScript framework. So you're writing code in JavaScript, but you're using all these functions and all kinds of different pieces of JavaScript that are already built for you, so you don't have to reinvent the wheel for things like animations or interacting with things. It also helps us build a single page application. There's just a lot of things that I like about Vue. That's why we're going to go ahead and build with that today. Now we've got our Node.js installed. To verify that, we're just going to open a command line, or command prompt I should say, and we're just going to type the word node space -v, and that's going to tell us what version of Node we are running. And you see now it says I'm on version 12.16.1, which is the latest that I just downloaded. Now Node has a built-in function called npm, which stands for Node Package Manager. And we're going to check the version of that. That is the latest version, 6.13.14. So what npm is basically is the Node Package Manager. And was that the original website? I think it was. I usually don't ever look at its main page here. But so npm is where you're going to get third-party packages so that you don't have to reinvent, say like a date picker or something like that. So they've got tons of date pickers that are already built for you with all the styles and everything, all the controls, the functionality, everything's already there. You don't have to build that from scratch. You can just import it directly into your project. So that's what the benefit of using Node.js is, that you can pull in the power of other projects into your own project to make it your own. So now that we have our Node.js, what we're going to want to do here is start a new project, and we're going to want to get it with a Vue CLI basically starter template. So what we're going to do here is figure out the installation. So this is just warning us about the old versions. Node version requirement requires 8.9 or above. To install the package, use one of the following commands. So I don't use yarn because Node.js already has npm installed in it, so this is the one that I use. So we're going to copy that. Now this -g here, so it's basically saying npm node package manager install this package called @vue/CLI, but it's got a parameter that says -G, and that stands for global. So just for now, just know that the G stands for global, which means it's going to be installed across the whole system, not just the project that we were working on, not just the folder of the project that we're working on. So no matter what project we're working on, we'll be able to access the Vue CLI commands. So the first thing you want to do is open another command prompt. Just any command prompt will do. And we are going to npm install -G @vue/CLI and hit enter on that. Now we could have just copy and pasted, but I felt like typing. It didn't take that long. So this is going to go ahead and install. Takes a little while to do. The warnings here of deprecated packages, you can look into that if you'd like to. I'm not too concerned with it right at this time. I could go into detail about that, but basically that's just one of the problems with using packages in NPM, is that oftentimes what will happen is they'll depend on other packages, and those packages depend on other packages, and so on down the line, and sometimes they get outdated and they don't get updated and all these different things. So you really kind of have to be vigilant about what it is that you're using. Now I happen to trust Vue CLI. They're, lots of people use them, so I'm not going to be too concerned about what's going on here, but we can always check per project using the command npm audit to see exactly if there's anything, but can't do it in this particular folder because I have no project installed there. So I'm going to CLS for clear screen. Just get that out of my way, and I can close this because I'm done. All we were doing there is just installing the Vue CLI. So that was the main thing we wanted to do. So now there are some basic things here that we can do to get our project going right off the ground. Prototyping, you can rapidly prototype with just a single star.vue file with a vue serve and a vue build commands. They require the global add-on to be installed along with the Vue CLI. The drawbacks of vue serve is that it relies on globally installed dependencies, which may be inconsistent on different machines. Therefore, it is only recommended for rapid prototyping. So in this case, we don't really want to do the instant prototyping. We're actually going to want to create a project. So for this one here, we're going to just create a hello world project real quick. I don't think it's going to be too helpful, but we'll just go ahead and do that. So at least we can get something going. So let's come on back over to our code here. We're going to open a terminal up, new terminal, and this is the same thing as the command prompt. So we are going to type vue create hello world. Never actually done this. I don't know if it's going to work. Oh, sure does. Okay, so manually select features. You can either choose the default preset, which comes with basic Babel and ESLint, or manually select features. I prefer default. I happen to like Babel and ESLint. They make sense to me. And that's going to go ahead and create our project. And we're going to get a little warning here about that the Git repository has too many changes, and that's because we've literally installed an entire program up here, and Git is tracking all of those changes. So right when we just install that, it's going to it's going to scream at us a little bit about that. Not a big deal. Okay, so that bad boy is now installed. If I can zoom in. No, sure can't. Okay, so yeah, so it's telling us. Oh, I done screwed up again. Yeah, we really done messed up now. Okay. So this right here on the left-hand side, this is our source control. And basically that is going to show us all of the changes, and we can undo those changes or commit those changes if we want to. So what we're going to do here is we're going to stage all these changes. We want these to be reflective on our Git website, and we just need to create a message here that says created hello world. Just want to make that descriptive so you know what you were doing when you committed these changes. And you hit the little checkbox here, and now those are all committed. So now you don't see any changes right now that are not committed. So down here in the lower left-hand corner here, you'll see there's a master, which is a branch. Okay, this is our master branch. This right here will dictate which are the outgoing and incoming changes. And then here's any issues if you have any problems. So we're going to go ahead and click this, which is the sync button, and it's going to push our code changes. Now, immediately this window popped up that I need to log into my GitHub. So I need to use the username and password that I created that I cannot remember at this time. So that's cool. Give me just a sec while I try to log into my password manager here. Let's see. And we want GitHub password. Login. Okay, the login must have worked. It didn't tell me, but down here you'll notice now it shows 0. No problems. Syncing is synchronized. So now we will take a look at our GitHub website, and I'll just do a page refresh here. We now have a VS Code folder and a Hello World folder. In this Hello World folder we have files already created for us and a couple folders here. Now I'm going to go over the folders structure real quick here. So basically you have a file here that's a gitignore file. This file you're definitely going to want to use at some point or another. You're going to want to ignore certain files or folders from being uploaded to GitHub pages, or well, the GitHub project anyway, the repository in the cloud. Reason being is because you're going to have maybe a file or maybe a password in a file or something that you want to be hidden or secret that you don't want out there in the world to see. Some examples are like local env, which stands for environmental files. Oftentimes what you'll put in an environmental file is you're going to want to have like an API key or database password or something of that nature that you definitely don't want in the cloud, but you do want your program to access it. So anything added to this file, GitHub will completely ignore and not commit it to the repository. Just remember that. Again, this is our README file that was already here. They just have one for this particular project. It's going to give us some information right here, like how to install the project, how to run it, compile it, build it, and linting is basically where they check your code to see if there's any bad code or anything that needs fixed. Okay, so Babel config here. This file is where you're going to config your Babel. Now, what Babel is basically it's a compiler, and it's going to take all of your code and it's going to compile it and create it into files that you can upload to a web server that other people are going to be able to, other servers are basically going to be able to serve. Basically, it's when you're ready for your website to go live on the internet. This thing is going to build all of it together for you when you're done. And then you can specify what kind of browser you want the website to be, to work on, basically, because there are trade-offs for how back you go far, like Internet Explorer, like 10 and lower. Really going to be restrictive on some of the new stuff that you can do with regards to web development today. So, there's always a trade-off. Usually you can just set some basic parameters. Most people are using Chrome nowadays. So, you basically want to code for that. And, Mozilla Firefox, and even the new Edge is starting to get there now that it's running on the Chromium engine. So, you're going to be pretty good spot. So your package lock.json file, you're never going to touch this. This is generated, and it's going to lock all of the versions of every single dependency that goes on with your project. Just don't worry about it. That is going to be created for you. Now your package JSON, this is pretty important. It basically describes your entire program. So there are some things that you will edit and some things that you don't necessarily want to edit. So for one, the dependencies and dev dependencies, you're not going to want to edit those too much. Those are going to be edited when you install or uninstall your dependencies. So when you go to the Node Package Manager and install your date picker here, that's automatically going to create a line in here that's going to describe which version of that program you're using, so that when you go to install this, the cool thing about how this all works, especially with Node.js and the package manager, is when you go to install this program somewhere, it's not going to copy every file. It's only going to copy this package JSON file, and what it's going to do is this describes which things that it needs to grab from the internet to build and create the program. So it's a lot easier to move between systems. It's a lighter package because it doesn't have to move everything at once. We'll go back into the package JSON later. Just know for now you don't have to mess with it. This was auto-generated, so it's good for now. Now the two folders that it created, public and source. Public is just that. This is the public. Anything that's in this folder will be viewable on the internet, and all of the code, everything. So this index.html, this is actually the HTML file that will be served on the internet, that when you go right click and inspect and you see all of this, that's what you're going to see, is this right here from your web page. And the most of this is just created automatically. The only thing that will exist will be your app, where this is where you're going to put your code in, but you're not going to put it in this file. You're going to put that in the source folder. So when you code, all of your source folder code is going to go in here, and then Babel, when you run the command build, is going to compile all of those files and folders in here and create files and put them in the public folder. And the public folder is your website. That's what will be copied to other places to go live. The source is what you work on. So in the source folder, we have things like assets, which are going to be like logos and images and CSS files or JavaScript file, whatever we need to build our website with, it'll go in there. Components. Components are pretty cool, which is mainly a benefit to one of the things I like about Vue, is that you can create self-contained components and include them in different sections of the website. And I'll go into that obviously later. But just know that you can build let's say this website that we're looking at here, if I wanted to say, okay, this blue section, where these are listed, that could be a component. These menus up here could be a component, and then I could reuse that component on different pages. So when I go to issues page. I could put another, I could reuse a component if I wanted to or whatever. That's basically what components are. So we got our two main files. One is the app.vue file and another is the main.js file. Now your main.js file is your main JavaScript file that basically starts the program. So in here, excuse me, you're going to have all of the imports of different kinds of packages that you're going to need to, like, let's say for instance your date picker here. So you can actually include the date picker here in your main.js, and then it will be accessible in all throughout the program. I particularly only use, like, say, a date picker on a page that uses a date picker, so I'll include it there and not do it globally. That's just, you don't have to do it that way. That's just the way I like to do it. But you can get, another package that you definitely want would have to go globally that you would put in there. I'd say Moment.js would be a good one. npm moment. Moment's probably one of the most useful packages you could use, just because handling dates in JavaScript is a pain, and Moment.js definitely makes it so much easier to work with. Which is right here, yep, Moment install. So you can take a date and format it in basically any way you want, and it's just great. I prefer that to anything else. But back to our project here. So most of this is generated. You won't have to mess with it too much. Just when you're setting up your project, that's where you're going to start messing with that. Now the app view, that's where you're really going to edit some code here. So this is basically the template of the application here. All of this stuff that you code here in this whole file gets injected into the public folder in the index.html where it says div ID app. So basically all that's compiled and jammed right into this div, and that is your application. But again, you're not gonna edit any of these files. You're not gonna edit any of these files unless you want to customize something. All in your source here in your app.vue, that's where you're messing with stuff. So we're going to go back over to our code here, and we are going to open the folders, open the hello world, and you see that same file structure we were looking at on the internet is here. We've got our app.vue file. I'm going to close that for now. And this is our program. So we've got a little HTML up top here. We've got some JavaScript within the script tag, and then we've got some CSS. That's what's really cool I like about the VueJS is the fact that you've got all three languages to build a website is HTML, JavaScript, and CSS all contained in one file. So that you have essentially what the body structure is of your website. You have the behavior of the website, and then you have what the website looks like to edit, like colors, fonts, and things like that. JavaScript is like when you click on things, what's it going to do? Give it some functionality. And then HTML is just telling the program these are the things that I want to include on my page. So since pretty much this is a done program now, we've done literally nothing but run one command. We're going to go ahead and see what it looks like. So there's a button up here that says run, and you can start debugging with also F5. And it's going to ask which environment we want. We're going to select the NodeJS, and it's going to tell me there's something wrong. So that's cool. Cannot find the launch program. Okay. So it's trying to run this from this file. And we can't do that because that's not where our package.json is. Our package.json is here. So let's try running it from here. Yeah, still didn't like that. Let's try that again. Oh man, I don't want to have to. Okay, so this is a VS Code thing. I have to define to VS Code how to run a program in VueJS or in Node.js. So I don't really care to do that right now, because I can just as easily open the terminal instead. Probably an easier way to do that, but I just don't feel like it right now. So open that, and we're going to do npm install. And we found 0 vulnerabilities. That's good. You didn't have to run install because we already installed it, but I just did for fun. So we'll clear that screen. And if you go back to our package.json, which describes our program, you'll see that we have a section called scripts. And basically these are the things that we can run from a command line. So we can serve, we can build, and we can lint. We are going to serve right now. Build is for production, and lint is just to check your syntax to see if you got a comma in the wrong spot or something. So we are going to serve this web page so we can see what it looks like. So we are going to run npm space run, and we are going to type serve. And boy, did it not like that. Okay. So we got a code of ENOENT. Package.json, no such file or directory in this folder. Okay. I see why. So if you'll notice, we are in the path C users, blah, 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 but we're in the learn VueJS. That's a folder above the hello world. So we need to cd into the hello world folder, which sucks because I just installed that in the wrong folder, but oh well. So we will run npm space run serve. Okay, so now this is going to start a web server on our local machine. And you'll see right here, it's telling us where this is running. It's running on localhost, port 8080, and network. If someone else on another computer wanted to see your super cool website, they could go to this address, which is my IP address on my local network. So I'm going to follow link by holding Control click, or I could have copy and pasted that. And we'll go over to the browser here. So this is our super cool web application. Just says welcome to your VueJS app, and these are the plugins and the essential links and yada yada yada. So this is our entire hello world experience. We've literally done no code, but we have a website. Look how cool that is. Bam. So we have gone from 0 to having a website. Okay, so now that we have everything set up, we will go back to our code here, and let's go over to the source control, because here's where I made my mistake of installing in the wrong folder. We can actually undo that mistake by highlighting over discard changes, delete, and discard that change and delete. And there, that is the beauty of version control. I made a mistake, and that's completely removed now. Done. So you want to get in the habit of frequently syncing your document just to make sure that your repository is up to date. Typically, you wouldn't be doing changes on your master branch, but we are just for now. So at this point, we're going to stop the video, and we'll move on and pick up next time with this same folders and structure and all of this stuff. We'll just pick right up where we left off, but I think that is enough for now. Stay tuned for more.